Besmirching R and a guten Chodesh. This is Yehuda Levin. The program, guten Chodesh, the program is 11 at 11, heard each and every Thursday night on 620 AM radio, WSNR. Please spread the word. I am your humble host, the harbinger of Hashkafa, the founder and dean of the university for their propagation and perpetuation of the Hashkafa of Ziknei Yisrael Midosha Ovar. Wherever the boy say, this is not just being cute. Tonight, the Siyata Deshmayim Yirtzah Hashem, I'm going to share with you insights, provocative, the kinds of things you will not hear anywhere else. As I've said often, you give me 1 hour and I will give you more hashkafa, more insight, more food for thought than going to a year full of Agudah conventions and dinners and OUs and shiurim and shmuzin, because the others do not discuss these things at all. We have a very special program tonight, Chodesh of the 9 days. We're talking about Churban, the Churban that was, the Churban that is, big Churbanos and mini Churbanos. And therefore, with great trepidation, but with the impetus that b'makom sheyesh chilul Hashem ein cholken kavod l'rav, the first subject we'd like to deal with tonight is revisiting the Rabbi Sherer factor. And we might call this segment, The Emperor is Missing a Few Clothes, and examining the official Artscroll English biography of Rabbi Sherer, not b'shtei einayim, but b'arbe einayim, and trying to figure out what Yonasan Rosenblum, what was he writing, and why was he writing these things, what did he write, and what did he leave out, what we can glean from this about the official Rabbi Sherer philosophy in terms of dealing with the moral issues during his lifetime. And if I may say so, history has proved Rabbi Sherer, who is a very great man, an Adam Godel Ad Ma'od, an Asken par excellence, but history has proved that in the area of morality and how to deal with it, he was woefully wrong, and we are suffering the aftershocks and the ever-increasing churban of what Rabbi Sherer did, and I'm going to elaborate on that. And I really believe, I'm firmly of the opinion that in the Olam HaEmes, where everything is not spin, it's not PR, it's not the Agudas Harabonim tweeting and chanfening and sycophantry. In the Olam HaEmes where Rabbi Sherer is, I believe that b'shtei yadayim, he's embracing me and kissing me for setting the record straight and trying to stop this behemoth, this total cascade towards Gomorrah that is being expedited by none other than Agudas Yisrael, who claims to act in the names of Gedolei Yisrael. Number two, we're going to have an Oisvarf update. The Oisvarf is the new posik of Congregation Beit Simchat Torah, the premier Mishkav Zocha Hashchasa Shul in Manhattan, and their new Hoisik. We're going to take a closer look at him. We gave him a Kriya Shem, but I think we have to do a little more in that area. Rabbi Fegi Moskowitz of Lakewood. And we're going to discuss his biography and his writings and what it indicates to us. Time permitting, we'll discuss the upcoming chasna, Simin Tov, Mazel Tov, of Senator Chuck U. Shumer, his lesbian daughter, and her Mishudeches, a little bit of satire. Who is going to be Masara de Kedishin by Senator Shumer's daughter, if the Dark is Sholem? We'll discuss it. Number 4, a hashkafic insight into the continuing saga of Cuomo and Mezuzah. We're going to quote you the tremendous Kiddush Hashem of the latest article in the Jewish press, where the Jewish press boldly states in the title the outrageous things that Shumer is doing and the immorality of it all. Kudos to the Jewish press. We're going to discuss a recent program on WABC with the arrogant one, Curtis Sliwa, who just became a chassan for the fourth time, is busy chapping with Simcha Felder because he stood up for yeshivas. And although there's a lot of criticism of Felder, in this particular case, we have to take the Frum community and Sliwa to task for what he's attempting to do. More on that later in the program if time permits. Should Chuck you, Shumer, also get a mezuzah? Why do we limit it to Governor Cuomo? After all, Shumer, for the last 30 years when he's been commandeering microphone at Agudah dinners, and he says with great arrogance, he's Shumer because he's a Shomer Yisrael, the Shomer Psochim, the mezuzah is a Shmira, maybe Shumer, the Shver of the lesbian, maybe Shumer should be getting a mezuzah as well. Something they could speak about in the next time the OU and Agudas Yisrael meet to discuss important things for Klal Yisrael. And finally, two more things, if time allows. Levin, you're attacking people. It's the 9 days. Lashon Hara. It's terrible. You're so negative. Where's the v'ahavta re'acha kamoicha? Why couldn't you be like Rabbi Aaron Mibels, who always found the good in people, like Rabbi Cook, like many other tzaddikim? Why? Why are you doing this? What's going on here? And Achron Chaviv, Harav, the president or presidente, the CEO of Lakewood, Rav Aaron Kotler. A few weeks ago, we had shout-outs to him. What's happening with Rav Aaron Kotler? What's he doing on the issues that we talked about? I'm afraid to say, I hope I'm wrong, nothing much. But if time permits, we'll get to that. And now, without further ado, let's get into our first topic of the evening. A second look at Rabbi Sherer and the Churban that his philosophy of how to deal with morality and legislation and legislators in the United States, the Churban that it caused. But you don't have to trust me for my assessment. We have the erstwhile scribe of Yonasan Rosenblum, who I'm sure wrote stuff. I'm sure plenty of stuff was taken out. I'm sure this was looked over very, very thoroughly, this biography, before it came out. It was airbrushed in a literary style, all kinds of ways. And with all that, the chazarai, the stench in this particular area of morality is so apparent and will be apparent to the tzibur. So it's kedai to read it, and let's see if we can learn and derive something and change at this late stage in the devolving morality to change course. Let's start. Again, everybody open up your Rabbi Sherer books. Open it up. And we'll turn to page 294. This is Mamish Sugya. When I tell you, like a prost the Balgaiva, that I'm the Mord Shmeitzer, and I'm the Hobbage of Ashkafa, I'm not saying it on my own, but I'm saying it because of what Gedol Yisrael imbued me with, inoculated me with, injected me with. And this is going to be a primary example, Rabbi Side. This is way above my pay grade. I do it with the Siyata Deshmaya of Gedol Yisrael. Now, This is just a little thing here. They were talking about after the New York City, this is page 299. After the New York City Board of Education cut nearly $3 million in funding for remedial speech therapy for non-public schools, Rabbi Sherer wrote to Mayor Beam. He began solicitously enough, telling Beam that he had purposely avoided writing for weeks during these stressful, intense times. The city was then in the midst of a major budget crisis, but felt it crucial to alert him that top Catholic and Jewish leaders were meeting to plan a legal suit against the city and huge public demonstrations. So in other words, Agudah usually doesn't demonstrate very few times, and we're very careful and we're very respectful. But when it comes to gelt for the meisters yeshivas, even if this New York City is going through a budget crisis, we'll meet with the Catholics and we'll go straight to the mayor and we'll tell them we're going to protest. So what do we derive from this? We derive that you know how to face down a politician. But what do you face down the politician for? Gelt and gelt and gelt and gelt and gelt. That you know how to face down the politician. This is what the record shows. No problem. Part of the Sherer philosophy. Gelt über alles. Then there was a letter hand-delivered to the mayor's office. And within a half an hour, Mayor Beam was distracted. He was on the phone to Rabbi Sherer. And he corrected his information and this and that. And then we have on page 300. Former Congressman Stephen Solar sums up the matter succinctly, describing Rabbi Sherer as, quote, as the absolute class of the field among Jewish leaders, he possessed a certain gravitas and a deep wisdom concerning human nature. Now, what does this mean? We're going to get onto this. Let's try page 482. Page 482. This is a crucial chapter. Shtadlonis, page 482. Shtadlonis. This is the guidebook from the man who has the haskava from ultra-liberal Stephen Solar's a close confidant and friend. This is called Chapter 20, Shtadlonis Theory and Practice. First, we are told that Rabbi Sherer was the beneficiary from Rav Aaron Kotler in the last 13 years of his life. So what we're doing is basically we're implying that Rav Aaron Kotler, the Sarah Torah, the Kanoi, the Ishra Emes, wouldn't put up with any bluff, who was so upset if an artist rendition of the Lakewood planned building had a palm tree or something that wasn't real, he couldn't tolerate it. Rav Aaron Kotler, who we heard a few weeks ago from Rabbi Eidenson, was so upset when Beis Yaakov girls put their pictures in the yearbook for the purpose of Shidduchim. Rav Aaron Kotler, the uncompromising fighter, we're supposed to understand if Rabbi Sherer got Shumer for 13 years, it must be that what he's doing, I mean, that's the implication of what Yonasan Rosenblum was writing. Now, in a 1983 letter to Dr. Bernard Frischman, who parenthetically basically was either booted out, or not booted out officially, but he was made to feel uncomfortable until he finally left Agudah because he was dissatisfied with some of the goings-ons there in relation to morality. So it's not just the Meshuggah Yehuda Levin, but there's many other people, including premier Asanim like Dr. Bernard Frischman. But anyhow, back in 83, the Besmirching, he writes as follows. The first priority, Rabbi Sherer writes, is what affects our ability as Orthodox Jews to live on the face of this earth. Therefore, anything that relates to Torah study must be on the top of our agenda at all times, since Torah is the only medicine that Hashem gave us for life itself. The second priority was to fight anything which violates our religious rights or which infringes upon our ability to live as observant Jews. Here, the focus was primarily defensive, protecting Jews and their ability to live as Jews rather than on trying to positively change society in the direction of Jewish values. Rabbi said, listen carefully to what we're talking about. Rosenblum delineates it very thoroughly. In other words, we only have to be in the defensive mode. In other words, we couldn't care less if the secular world is going letarvisra and schmutz. As long as we can continue to live in our ghettos without walls, we have no achrayis, we're in gullus, mekenish, metutnish, mekenik, garnish. You understand? A defeatist attitude, and also a tipshus, a stupidity, because if you think, and history has proved that Yehuda Levin and the Dr. Frischmans and the Rev Avigdor Millers and the Rav Moshe Feinsteins and the Rav Yaakov Kamenettis, rather than the Sherer doctrine. The Sherer doctrine is wrong, and that's why I told you a Maisa, which I'll repeat again. Rav Leizar Shach told Councilman Noach Deer through Rabbi Simcha Kohen Cook, you have to fight gay rights because it's going to impact on us in Eretz Yisrael, and it's going to impact on you in America. And I'm not talking about the token, garbage, compromising junk that Agudas is much too little, much too late. Not like coming to Beam for the $3 million for the public schools and the Catholic schools. We make meetings with the Catholic and everything else. How many meetings has Agudas Yisrael made in the last 15 years with the Catholic and with the evangelicals to make a united front to challenge politicians on morality, not just tokenism? You understand? So when he says we don't have to be proactive, it goes against everything. Meaning, the hashkafa was, when it's convenient, it's like we're in Europe. We're under the czar. We can't do anything. But America is much different. We do all kinds of things. We have all kinds of freedoms. So who's to say we don't have to revert because we live in a ghetto without walls? And because there's so much commerce and interchange and stuff going on, and we're so integrated and assimilated, how is it possible to be, excuse my French or English, stupid enough to think that all of the societal vogues are not impacting on us? In other words, on the internet today, there's big advertisements constantly about cleaning up from schmutz, the people are porn heads. What do you mean? Tell me, when the Gentiles were fighting pornography in the 80s, where was Agudas Yisrael to fight pornography? This is part of the falsekeit, the deficiency, the narrow-mindedness, and the toys of the Sherer doctrine. I want you to understand that. Here's his own words. Rosenblum understood this. Not to be defensive, not offensive, not proactive. Towards this end, Agudas Yisrael might support consumer protection statutes seeking to protect Jews from fraud and the sale of religious items like tefillin or kosher meat. But Agudah had no interest in persuading the government, quote unquote, of Rabbi Sherer to make halacha the law of the land, thereby converting the police power of the state into an enforcement arm of the Shulchan Aruch. As David Zweibel put it in a Jewish Observer article, this is why abortion and same-gender marriage, listen carefully, this is why abortion and same-gender marriage were not issues to which Agudas Yisrael devoted a great deal of its energy until forced to counteract the falsifications of the Torah view put forth by other Jewish groups. You hear the idiocy, the stupidity, the foolishness. The only reason, even when Agudah Johnny came lately, which is mamish in the last few years, they did something. It was only because Jewish groups were making Mechil Hashem the reform and the conservative. Otherwise, what Rav Leizar Shach said, that it affects us in Eretz Yisrael, what's going on in America, Kal V'chomer, you have to fight it in America, because he cited like the chinuch without mentioning the name, that we are all impacted on this tifa machshava, that you had to be the God Ladar of Shach in order to understand Sherer and Agudah, Rabbi Sherer-Agudah, Zichroinu Livracha, Rabbi Sherer, didn't understand this. And Rosenblum posthumously is writing this in the book. In other words, they're continuing with the propaganda posthumously years after Rabbi Sherer was nifta to try to continue this and to give justification to all the Twitter and Schmitter and Facebooks and Hanifa and Lecking that the Agudah and all their sycophants, whether it's Chatzkel Bennett, or whether it's what's his name, Goldberg, the one who has the Community Matters, or whether it's Yerucham Silber, my friend, or whether it's Lefkowitz, or whether it's these other gentlemen, whatever they're doing, that every second minute they're tweeting and schmeating and Facebooking and everything else of Lekarai, as we're cascading towards Gomorrah, and Cuomo is doing, which we'll discuss further in the program, time permitting, they're continuing to justify it with this thing, and they're not even embarrassed. In other words, it's not only the politicians who think we're Jaime Town. This Artscroll book, this thing written by Rosenblum that was approved by Zweibel and company, and maybe the Novominsk and others, I'm sure was read very carefully because they always airbrush history. B'shtei einayim, ba'arba einayim, b'chamisha oser einayim, and it pierces all the einayim. So einayim lehem v'lo yirau. They're not even zeicha to see the stupidity, the ineptitude, and the horrific churban that this philosophy, this false philosophy, has brought us to. But it's straight here, and it justifies all the little things that my Rebbe, Rabbi Victor Miller, the Kashu Rav, the Debetzin Rav, the Shalom Metzion Balacha, and indirectly Rabbi Moshe Feinstein and Rabbi Leizar Shach, all these people that inspired me to do. This was all different. Now, on the next page, they tell you the Bamaisa. At the same time, the dividing line between promoting halacha, what are you playing games of promoting halacha, and concern with general societal values is not a bright one. Agudas Yisrael actively opposed various gay rights legislation, the Equal Rights Amendment, and supported legislation placing limitations on abortion after Roe versus Wade. And so Zweibel testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee and supported the Defense of Marriage Act, which provided that no state is required to give full faith and credit. In other words, recognize same-gender marriage performed in other states. Let us pause. Let's give a big hand for Reb David Zweibel, for Reb Chaim Dosek. He actually testified in front of Congress when even Clinton, the Oisraf, the pornography, the adulterer, was supporting the Defense of Marriage Act, which he signed into law. Zweibel was there. Oh, this proves Agudah is cutting edge in fighting for morality. You understand? Rabbi say it's like if Yasser Arafat was the United States Senator of New York, I guarantee you, on certain issues, he would have done more for the Jewish community than Agudas Yisrael. Not on morality, maybe yeah, maybe not. I'm just trying to make a point. It all depends on the situation. What are they trying to prove here? That they issued a few press releases? Tell me. They had a bunch of big rallies against gay marriage? I'm supposed to be impressed because he once testified in the 1990s. Well, when Cuomo was pushing it, he was promising them tap, and he was warning them, you better behave yourself and not do anything more than token opposition. They did nothing. They lulled us into a sleep. Averis, avaryonim, churbanmachers. Yes. On Tisha B'Av, we speak about all the churbanis. It's now the 9 days. We got to speak about this churban, because this churban is negeah to us right now, and it's continuing afield. When Governor Cuomo could make Kaisem Ksubal Azacha, and Rabbi Zweibel wasn't at Magen David, I made a mistake because the press seemed to indicate that he was, because they showed a picture of him with Cuomo from a different time. But actually, he would have been there, but he had a bris for an ankle or something like that. He would have been there, and they sent other Agudah functionaries. So Zweibel, in principle, had no problem going there and making kuchin you, muchin you, because it's gelt over alles. He's following the shita. You can confront Meir Beam, you can count for Cuomo. Als for gelt for the moistest, because God, Hayad Hashem Tiktzar, Hashem can't provide us with mon and with gelt if we don't do this. But in really fighting for things, we can't. That would be imposing halacha. It sounds like the reform criticism on us in Eretz Yisrael. The Agudah is helping in America. We don't want to impose halacha. You understand? This is garbage. This is baloney. I don't know if you understand, Rabbi Sai, the churban that this is. Let's read weiter. Rabbi Sherer also knew that moral pollution would eventually take its toll on observant Jews as well. Wow. Lewd advertisements of public transportation constitute direct assault on all states rabbis. And Agudas Yisrael fought the issue hard. See chapter 11. In a less direct and immediate fashion, legislation or judicial decisions that embody the client belief in the sanctity of life could have implications for Jews, as in the areas of the end-of-life healthcare. So here they're saying, they're making the Yehuda 11 connection that because of your abortion, that you've done so precious little, That's what we're faced with euthanasia today and end of life and all the chazarai that's going on. But they try to say because they did a little bit, they did tokenism, nothing like what was required. That's why when I went to Rav Moshe Feinstein, got, in other words, the Gedolim, Rav Avigdor Miller, the Leizar Rav and the Debrecen Rav to sign a letter to Rav Moshe about how to deal with the gay rights situation. And Rav Moshe responded, even though it was watered down by Mordechai Tendler and company, and maybe Heshi Jacobs or Heshi Jacobs' brother or Marvin Jacobs, whatever it was, even though it was watered down, he gave a letter in Agudas Harabonim station that says, hearings. It was a mitzvah to go down and protest the gay rights. Agudas Harabonim didn't have the ability. They didn't have 40 or 50 Agudas shuls and people and the ways of communicating. Why did Rabbi Moshe choose to put this in Agudas Harabonim station and not in Agudas Yisrael? Good question, no? To ask this question. Because obviously he schmecked from the Sherer doctrine that he was probably never even told about the gay rights stuff and the extent of it. He wasn't told by Rabbi Sherer-Agudah. Let me give you an example. Let me give you the first time it happened. The first time Rabbi Moshe got involved in the gay rights was way back in around 1977. In 1977, the first gay rights legislation in the country was to be imposed in Dade County. There was a lady who was once a Miss America or a beauty queen, whatever it is, but she was a very devout religious Christian. Her name was Anita Bryant. She was also famous for doing orange juice advertisements to promote orange juice, which is a major product of Florida. Anita Bryant was fighting tooth and nail against the schmutz on the Dade County that they wanted to make a gay rights legislation. When somebody, I think it was my fellow, the Friar Yid, the traditionalist, Michael Barbaro, came and brought it to the attention of Rav Moshe, he had a letter written in English on the Agudas Harabonim station, and he signed Moses Feinstein, telling all of them to vote no. You think he was told this by Rabbi Sherer? Did he do it on Agudas Yisrael stationery? Anechtige Tag. Anechtige Tag. Rav Moshe disagreed when Rav Yaakov said, you got to vote even for anti-Semitic people if they're bad on Israel, and they're not going to give money to yeshivas, but they're good on morality. That's what Agudas Yisrael was doing. The disconnect between the Mayetzes at Gedolei HaTorah, Rav Moshe, and Rav Yaakov. And I guarantee you the Titan emissary of Aaron, the Kanoi, who was so upset about pictures of girls in the yearbook, Alachas Kam V'Kam, if you know the schmutz that's going on, these Gedolei Yisrael would be turning over in their graves if they knew what Agudas Yisrael is doing with the sycophantry. And it goes on and on. You just have to read the book. Isn't it time that Agudas Yisrael, under the leadership of the Heintige Gedolim, Yibon L'chaim Tov Ma'aruchim, should wake up and smell the kaveh el Hashem, the coffee? They should smell the kaveh, and they should say it's about time we should do a massive mea culpa, because this kind of book contributes to the propaganda and tries to justify, now when this was written 5 years ago, whenever, to justify the terrible, corruptive, churbandical way of Agudas Yisrael of dealing with morality, which is why we have the problems. And later, if I could find the quotes, I'll quote the Solars, and our Solar said we can agree to disagree on the moral issues. And what about when Chuck U. Schumer told me when I went to testify in front of Congress on a bill related to abortion? I know Rabbi Moshe Sherer, I'm very close with him. He never made any issue out of abortion. But here they put down, yeah, we were opposed to Roe versus Wade. About the tokenism. It didn't even extend that Chuck U. Schumer in his own backyard should understand how seriously we felt. It was only nefashis. It doesn't come to gelt. And of course, if you want to get technical, no Jews are being hurt by abortion. There aren't irreligious Jews who are doing abortions. There aren't on occasion religious Jews that are doing abortions. This is the kind of chazarai. It's time to revisit the errant, the mistaken, the woefully misguided Sherer doctrine, which was not a product of Gedolei Yisrael. It was despite the Rav Aaron couplets of Rav Moshe Rav Yaakov. It's a shame, and it's time to correct the record. Rabbi said, this is Rabbi Yehuda Levin. This was part 1 of our Rosh Chodesh of special program of Levin at 11. Please spread the word, and we will be back in a moment with our second segment. So stay tuned, be with us, and spread the word. Please be a shutav in this program by spreading the word. Let people see this on the internet. Please, it's so important. I'm putting in every bit of koiches I have. I need your help to spread the word about the program and the video. We'll be right back.